7 signs that someone dislikes you and is hiding it. As Marcus Aurelius once said, the opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know the truth. And the truth is sometimes the people smiling at you are the ones rooting for your downfall behind closed doors. Welcome to Stoic Science. In today's video, we're diving into 7 signs that someone dislikes you and is hiding it. It's not always easy to face, but learning to spot these hidden cues is the first step toward protecting your peace and building stronger, more authentic relationships. Have you ever sensed that someone didn't like you but couldn't prove it? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your experience. Let's get into it. 1. They subtly exclude you from plans. In a world where appearances often outweigh authenticity, one of the hardest pills to swallow is realizing you're being quietly pushed out by the very people you once trusted. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." And that includes the subject of you. When it comes to Stoicism, it's not about suppressing emotion. It's about facing reality with clarity and grace. And one reality many Stoic men silently battle is social exclusion. Not the loud, dramatic kind. No, this is subtle, almost invisible, but just as cutting. Let's talk about something that most men won't admit bothers them: being left out. You check your phone, and there it is, a group of your so-called friends having the time of their lives at a dinner, a party, or a weekend trip. You weren't invited. No message, no heads up, just silence. And when you bring it up later, you're met with the usual empty lines. "We figured you were busy. It was also last minute." But deep down, you know the truth. If they truly wanted you there, they would have made sure you knew. This kind of exclusion isn't accidental. It's a message dressed up in excuses. And the Stoic man sees it for what it is: a cowardly form of rejection without confrontation. They don't want to deal with the discomfort of honesty, so they hope you'll just take the hint, disappear quietly, and save them the trouble. It's not loud. It's not aggressive. It's subtle, passive-aggressive. And it's happening more than most people are willing to admit. As a Stoic, your power lies not in pretending it doesn't hurt, but in recognizing what it means and choosing your response with intention. For years, I bit my tongue. I made excuses for their excuses. I told myself, next time, they'll remember me. But there comes a point when silence becomes self-betrayal. So I did what Stoicism teaches us to do. I stopped waiting and started acting. I asked the hard questions, not to guilt them, but to honor my worth. "Hey, I noticed you all went out. Was there a reason I wasn't invited?" It wasn't about creating drama. It was about drawing a line. And the reaction? Some backed off. Others doubled down. But at least now, I knew exactly where I stood. Modern life is already full of battles, career demands, family responsibilities, the pressure to always be on. You don't need to waste emotional energy on people who don't value your presence. Stoicism reminds us to invest our time and heart wisely. If someone doesn't see your worth, that's not your failure. It's their limitation. And your role is not to shrink to fit into places that weren't meant for you, but to walk with dignity toward the spaces where you are welcomed with respect. So if you're finding yourself subtly excluded, don't just brush it off. Face it, speak on it, and then decide. Because your peace is more important than keeping up appearances with people who make you feel like an afterthought. You're not a backup plan. You're not someone they call when every other option is exhausted. You are a man of value. And Stoicism teaches us not just to endure, but to choose wisely to protect our emotional territory with the same strength we bring to our outer world. At the end of the day, real friends don't forget to include you. They don't need reminding that you matter. So take inventory. Ask yourself, are you chasing people who wouldn't chase you back? If the answer is yes, then maybe it's time to stop running and start standing for your time, your truth, and your peace. Because as a Stoic man, you don't just react to the world. You respond to it with strength, intention, and a deep understanding of your own worth. If you are ready for the journey of change, please comment, I am a Stoic. 2. They're busy only when it comes to you. We've all heard it. Sorry, I'm just super busy these days. And on the surface, it sounds reasonable. After all, life is hectic for everyone. But if you look a little closer, a deeper truth begins to unfold. When someone constantly has time for others posting photos with mutual friends, catching up with people you both know, making space for new connections, but somehow always runs out of hours when it comes to you, that's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. And it's a pattern with a message. You're not a priority. I remember going through this with someone I once considered a close friend. I'd reach out with genuine interest, trying to find a time to reconnect, and they'd always have an excuse working late, feeling overwhelmed, maybe next week. And yet, I'd see them all over social media, laughing with others, attending events, seemingly thriving. It wasn't their calendar that was too full. It was their heart that no longer had room for me. That realization stung, but it was also a wake-up call. Stoic philosophy teaches us not to waste emotional energy on what we cannot control. And one of the hardest, yet most liberating things to accept is this. When people care, they make time. If they don't, they make excuses. No one is too busy for the people they truly value. And if someone is always too busy for you, they're telling you where you stand, just not with words. That's the passive-aggressive nature of modern rejection. It's indirect, wrapped in politeness, but it's still a rejection. And as painful as it is, it can also be a gift. I've also been on the other side dodging messages, offering vague reasons, trying to avoid the discomfort of honesty. And looking back, I know that I would have served both of us better if I had simply been upfront. Because dragging someone along with half-hearted replies isn't kindness, it's avoidance. When I finally confronted that friend, it wasn't easy. The conversation was awkward, even a little heartbreaking. But it gave me what I needed: clarity. It freed me from wondering and waiting. And in that space of honesty, I rediscovered something essential of my own worth. So let me ask you, who in your life always seems to run out of time for you? And why are you still holding space for them in your schedule, in your mind, in your heart? If the relationship feels one-sided, that's because it probably is. You deserve more than someone's convenience. You deserve their consistency. A Stoic doesn't beg for attention or chase affection. They stand rooted in self-respect and let others show, by action, whether they belong in their circle. 3. They're always joking about your flaws. They say, In a room where people laugh at your pain, you don't belong. And that couldn't be more true when it comes to recognizing the hidden signs of dislike, especially when they show up in the form of jokes. Let's talk about that one familiar character, the person who constantly jokes about your flaws, always with a grin, brushing it off with a casual, "I'm just messing with you." But let me ask you this. If the joke always seems to land on your insecurities, your appearance, your voice, your dreams, your energy, when does it stop being funny and start becoming damaging? See, when someone fixates on your quirks under the disguise of humor, it's not affection, it's passive aggression. And while we've been socially trained to laugh along to avoid being labeled too sensitive or unable to take a joke, what we're really doing is allowing our boundaries to be tested. This is where a Stoic mindset becomes a powerful shield. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Choosing to remain calm doesn't mean staying silent. The daily Stoic approach isn't about tolerating subtle disrespect. It's about cultivating inner clarity so you can recognize manipulation dressed up in politeness or laughter. I remember being in a close friendship where every hangout felt like a roast session with me as the unconsenting main act. It started small, like a joke about how I speak or dress. Then came the snide remarks about my work, my passions. I told myself they were just being funny. But here's the truth. The jokes were always aimed to shrink me, never to uplift me. Over time, it wasn't just my mood that suffered. It was my confidence, my creative energy, my sense of worth. I began internalizing those words, questioning whether my dreams really were too much or my energy too intense. That's when I had to pause and ask, am I the joke, or is this relationship the real problem? And if you're honest with yourself, maybe you've asked the same. Because here's the deeper truth. When someone constantly jokes at your expense, they're not laughing with you. They're laughing at you. And they're using humor as a shield to escape accountability. Seneca, one of the great Stoics, once said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity. For he is not permitted to prove himself." Standing up for yourself, especially in subtle social dynamics like this, is your moment of proof. It's the test of whether you'll allow someone else to narrate your story with sarcasm or take the pen back and draw the line. A daily Stoic practice reminds us that self-respect isn't loud, but it is firm. It's in the moment you choose to stop laughing just to fit in. It's in the choice to say, "That wasn't funny," even if your voice shakes. The moment you do that, everything shifts. People who value you will respond with respect. Those who don't may leave, and that's a blessing. Because you were never meant to be surrounded by people who need to dim your light in order to feel seen. So let me leave you with this. When was the last time you tolerated something that quietly hurt you just to keep the peace? And is it time to choose peace within over peace with others? You deserve to be around people who protect your spirit, not poke holes in your identity. Speak up. Stand tall. You are not anyone's punchline and never have been. If this video has been enlightening to you, it would be an honor to us if you would like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, comment 1 if you've encountered similar situations in your life and how you overcame them. 4. They give compliments that sting like insults. Let's be honest, navigating adult life with a Stoic mindset means developing not just emotional resilience, but also the clarity to recognize when someone is undermining you with a smile. As the ancient Stoics taught, we are not disturbed by things, but by the view we take of them. So what happens when the disturbance comes disguised as praise? You know the type: someone gives you a compliment that doesn't quite sit right, and instead of feeling uplifted, you're left second-guessing yourself. That's not your gut being overly sensitive. That's your inner wisdom nudging you toward the truth. One of the clearest signs that someone secretly dislikes you, but hides it behind a mask of politeness, is the backhanded compliment. It's a verbal sleight of hand. You did surprisingly well on that project for someone like you. Or, you actually look good today. These words sting, not because they're entirely false, but because they contain just enough truth to mask the venom. I once spent weeks developing a project I was genuinely proud of. Countless late nights, deep focus, the whole 9 yards. When I finally presented it, a colleague smiled and said, "This is actually impressive for someone with your background." I felt a rush of confusion, then dismay. That compliment had an invisible hook in it, and it pulled hard. The phrase, "for someone like you," wasn't just an afterthought. It was the entire point. That's when I realized this wasn't encouragement. It was control. Backhanded compliments are a psychological power play. They're meant to keep you guessing, to plant a seed of self-doubt while maintaining plausible deniability. And in today's fast-moving world of careers, partnerships, and responsibility, men need to recognize these subtle jabs for what they are: attempts to clip your wings just as you're learning to fly. A stoic man doesn't take every word at face value. He listens, observes, and evaluates. He does not internalize every opinion, especially from those whose actions don't align with their words. When someone subtly tears you down under the guise of flattery, it reveals far more about their insecurity than your worth. This is especially important for those of us juggling high-stakes jobs, fatherhood, leadership, or personal growth areas where clarity and confidence aren't optional. They're essential. These sly digs often come from people who feel threatened by your growth. They see your rise, and their own stagnation becomes unbearable. So they do what small minds do. They chip away at your self-esteem with pretty words dipped in poison. But here's where Stoicism arms us. It teaches us to remain grounded in our own self-knowledge. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." That applies here. Just because someone sounds supportive doesn't mean they are. If you start to notice a pattern of compliments that make you shrink instead of stand taller, take note. That is not encouragement. That is subtle sabotage. And let's be real, none of us are perfect. We've all, at some point, let jealousy slip through our lips in the form of a compliment meant more to maintain hierarchy than to honor someone's success. But growth comes from awareness. When you recognize that behavior in others, or yourself, you have a choice: perpetuate it or rise above it. Personally, I've made it a habit to call it out when it happens. Not in a confrontational way, but with clarity. If someone says, "You're pretty sharp for someone in your field," I'll respond, "Interesting. What exactly do you mean by that?" It forces a moment of truth. It signals that you won't be quietly minimized or manipulated. And often, the person realizes they've been caught in their own game. As men striving to live with strength and dignity, We must stop measuring our worth through the distorted mirror of other people's insecurities. The Stoic man does not give up his strength easily. He knows his worth. He surrounds himself with people who speak the truth with integrity and encourage without conditions. And above all, he remembers this: genuine compliments build you up. They do not embarrass you, put you down, or make you doubt your success. Share your thoughts by commenting below or commenting, "I hold my power." 5. They avoid physical contact like the plague. When it comes to the subtleties of human behavior, few things speak louder than silence, and in this case, silence of touch. Physical contact, however small, is one of the most primal forms of connection we have. Whether it's a handshake, a pat on the back, or simply sitting close without discomfort, these gestures say, "I trust you. I'm comfortable with you. I acknowledge your presence." But what happens when someone avoids physical contact with you like it's a contagious disease? It's not just awkward, it's revealing. It speaks volumes without a single word being said. I remember working with a colleague who was warm and physically expressive with nearly everyone except me. While I watched them lean in with ease toward others, I noticed that when I extended my hand for a shake or offered a friendly pat on the shoulder, they would pull back, subtly but consistently. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe they were tired, distracted, or simply not the touchy type. But it kept happening, and only with me. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about being introverted or touch-averse. It was about boundaries, but not the healthy kind, more like a silent wall that separated us and made it clear that I was being kept on the outside. In Stoic philosophy, actions are far more important than words, because actions reveal the true state of someone's internal world. And in this case, the absence of physical gestures became an action in itself, a declaration. The Stoics teach us to see things clearly, to read the truth of what is, not what we wish it to be. So when someone goes out of their way to avoid even basic contact with you, it's time to ask yourself, what is this discomfort trying to tell me? Could it be that they feel threatened by your presence, annoyed by your energy, or quietly resentful about something they're not saying? The Stoic approach is not to spiral into emotional drama, but to observe calmly and then respond with clarity and dignity. And yes, sometimes that response means having a direct conversation, even if it's uncomfortable. Sometimes it means letting go. In today's world, especially for men navigating relationships at work, in friendships, or even within family, understanding the quiet cues of connection is more important than ever. We live in a culture that often encourages surface-level interaction, but discourages authentic expression. But the Stoic man chooses to see through the surface. He notices who hugs everyone else but stiffens around him. He notices when someone always stands an extra step away, or recoils at a high five that everyone else accepts. And instead of taking it personally or retaliating, he reflects. He asks, what is my role in this? Is this a moment to address something deeper, or a signal to step back? The truth is, we've all been on both sides. We've avoided touch when we weren't comfortable around someone, and we felt the sting of being the one avoided. But what matters most is what we do with that awareness. Do we shrink from it, pretend it's nothing, or do we step into the wisdom of that discomfort and face it head on? Here's where Stoic philosophy gives us real strength. It teaches us that it is far better to face an uncomfortable truth than to live in a comfortable illusion. As Marcus Aurelius said, if someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change. And sometimes the signal that something isn't right comes in the form of a missing handshake. So if you notice someone consistently avoiding physical closeness with you, but not with others, don't just brush it off. Don't immediately blame yourself, but don't ignore it either. Let it be a point of reflection. Ask the hard questions. Consider having a conversation, not to accuse, but to understand. Maybe it will lead to a deeper connection. Or maybe it will help you release someone who was never truly open to you in the first place. Either way, you come out stronger, wiser, and more aligned with what Stoic philosophy urges us to live by. Truth over comfort, clarity over confusion, self-respect over false peace. You deserve relationships where connection flows freely, not where you constantly feel like an outsider knocking on a locked door. So what signs have you noticed in your life? Subtle, quiet signs that made you realize someone was keeping you at a distance. And more importantly, what did you do with that realization? If you are ready for the journey of change, please comment, I am a Stoic. 6. They disappear when you need support. There's an old saying by Epictetus that goes, it is during our darkest moments that we must focus to see the light. And often, that light reveals not only our inner strength, but also the truth about those around us. When life gets hard, and I mean gut-wrenching, soul-shaking hard, you begin to see things with a clarity you never had before. You begin to realize that some people were only standing beside you because the sun was shining. But when the storms come, they vanish. And that's not just disappointing, it's revealing. If you're trying to live with a Stoic mindset, rooted in clarity, personal responsibility, and emotional resilience, then moments like these are not just setbacks, they're signals. They're reminders from life itself to reevaluate who's truly walking with you. I remember a season in my life when I was crumbling inside. I wasn't asking for the world, just a simple check-in, a call, a "how are you holding up?" from the people I had once dropped everything for. But the silence was deafening. The very people who once flooded my phone with messages during good times were suddenly too busy, too tired, too distracted. And the excuses? Oh, they came dressed up real pretty. Work's been crazy lately. I meant to reach out, but time got away. Or the classic, let's catch up soon words that float into nothing. And that's the hard truth. People will often love the version of you that doesn't require much from them. They'll cheer for your highlights, but go missing during your lowlights. But a daily Stoic approach teaches us that truth is better than illusion. And if someone's absence during your struggle feels like betrayal, that feeling is valid. It's not dramatic. It's data. It's evidence that you're giving loyalty to someone who can't or won't return it when it matters. And while it hurts, it's also a powerful filter. Because real support isn't loud. It's not performative. It's quiet, consistent, and inconvenient. It shows up when there's nothing to gain. It stands beside you in the rain, not just the rainbow. And that kind of presence, that's rare. When someone disappears when you need support, they're telling you something without saying a word. I'm not invested enough in you to carry even a part of your burden. It's harsh, but it's also freeing because it teaches you to stop pouring your energy into people who only see you as an option, not a priority. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And the same applies to friendships and love. Don't waste time wondering why someone won't show up. Instead, be someone who does, and watch how life mirrors that back to you. So here's the deeper question. Who showed up for you when everything was falling apart? Who stayed? And perhaps even more importantly, who didn't? Ask yourself that, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Because clarity is the cornerstone of the Stoic mindset. You deserve relationships that hold weight, not ones that vanish when things get heavy. Let this be your wake-up call, not your breakdown. And if you've ever had to walk through pain alone, know this: solitude can be sacred. It doesn't mean you're unloved. It means you're being guided to those who truly belong in your circle. So protect your peace. Cherish the few who stay, and let the rest fall away without regret. After all, as the Daily Stoic reminds us, control what you can, accept what you can't, and walk forward in strength. Tell me, who do you lean on when life tests you the most, and who really leans back? 7. They gossip about you behind your back. Let's face it, most men don't walk around checking for betrayal like a paranoid soldier in a battlefield. We tend to give people the benefit of the doubt, especially when they smile to our face and shake our hand. But Stoicism teaches us to value truth over illusion and respect over false harmony. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth." Today, I want to talk to you directly, not with fluff, but with hard-earned truth about one of the most corrosive, dishonorable signs that someone dislikes you but hides it behind politeness: gossip. You see, gossip is not just small talk. It's a subtle form of war. It's a whisper that starts a fire. When someone spreads stories about you behind your back, they aren't just telling tales. They're quietly stabbing you while keeping their hands clean. And I've been there. I once opened up to someone I considered a brother and told him something personal during a tough time in my life. I wasn't looking for sympathy, just a space to unload. Days later, twisted versions of that conversation made their way back to me. I realized I hadn't confided in a friend. I had handed ammunition to an opportunist. That moment changed the way I see people. Because here's the truth, most won't tell you. Gossipers don't care about right or wrong. They care about status, attention, and control. Gossip is their tool, and you are just the subject of their manipulation. And it gets worse because they often frame it as a concern. "I'm just worried about him," they'll say, or "I thought you should know." But Stoic wisdom doesn't tolerate false virtue. A Stoic man lives by principles, not performance. And when you realize someone is betraying your trust through whispered slander, the answer is not revenge, it's clarity. Cut ties. Protect your peace. Maintain your dignity. The man who gossips about others in your presence is almost certainly gossiping about you in your absence. This isn't paranoia. This is pattern recognition. A Stoic mindset demands that you see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. In modern life, where networking, workplace dynamics, and social reputation often matter as much as merit, gossip can sabotage your momentum before you even realize it. That's why it's essential to guard your inner circle like a fortress. Not everyone deserves access to your story. Not everyone who smiles is a friend. When someone gossips about you, what they're really doing is revealing their character, not yours. The Stoic response? Withdraw your energy. Set boundaries. Choose truth over peace when necessary, but never let someone else's deception drag you into reaction. Instead, observe, adjust, and move forward with quiet strength. Remember, as Epictetus said, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. When you hear gossip about yourself, don't internalize it. Investigate the source, protect your integrity, and choose action rooted in values, not emotion. So ask yourself, who in your life would guard your name in a room full of critics? And who would casually let it burn just to look interesting? The answer to that question may just save you years of misplaced loyalty. Because in the end, Stoicism is not just about enduring pain. It's about discerning truth and walking away from what insults your soul. If this message resonates with you, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. Joan Kett, at the end of the day, recognizing the subtle signs that someone secretly dislikes you, whether it's backhanded compliments, avoidance, or gossip, isn't about becoming paranoid, but about honoring your peace and protecting your energy. As we explored in this video on Stoic Science, awareness is power, and Stoicism teaches us to respond with clarity, not chaos, to remain grounded even when others try to shake us. So ask yourself, who in your life brings calm and who brings confusion? Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you experienced these signs before? And if this resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep applying these timeless Stoic principles to create a life rooted in self-respect and inner peace.